When we talk about enzymes, cultures, and fermentation agents in modern food production, we're really asking about the unsung workers, the microscopic helpers that do the biochemical heavy lifting. And from a halakhic perspective, these helpers often shape the kosher status of the final food far more than any of the ingredients consumers can actually see on the label. Yet what's so encouraging is that halacha has been navigating these questions for centuries. Whether it was souring milk in antiquity, fermenting wine, making cheese, brewing beer, or baking bread, Jewish law has always had a framework for biological catalysts. What has changed is not the halakhic principles, but the sophistication of the science. And remarkably, the principles scale beautifully. The first major area of inquiry involves the microbial strains themselves. In classical halacha, microorganisms are not classified like animals or plants. They are not subject to shechita, they are not inherently non-kosher, and they do not carry independent food status unless fed or processed with forbidden materials. Whether the organism is a yeast, fungus, bacterium, or engineered microbe, the question is not its species, it is its environment. If the strain was built using synthetic components or grown initially on non-animal, non-chametz media, halakhic authorities see it as neutral. Even when the organism has been genetically modified using DNA instructions copied from animals, the DNA itself is not halakhically meat, dairy, or an animal derivative. It is information, code. And halacha cares about tangible substance, not digital sequence. So the microbe's identity rarely creates complications. What matters are the materials that feed it, sustain it, and help it express the desired proteins. That brings us to the second layer, growth media. This is often the point where a product becomes kosher or non-kosher. Microbial fermentation requires a nutrient bath, sugars, nitrogen sources, minerals, vitamins, sometimes emulsifiers or anti-foaming agents. Some older industrial practices relied on non-kosher or animal-derived components. Halakhically, that could render the resulting fermentation product problematic if the forbidden input was significant, present throughout the process, or imparted essential function. But here, technological progress actually works in halacha's favor. Modern biotech increasingly uses vegan formulations, cane sugar or beet sugar as carbon sources, ammonium sulfate or urea as nitrogen, plant-derived micronutrients, and fully synthetic vitamin blends. Not only does this improve reproducibility and allergen control, it makes halakhic oversight simpler. For example, consider precision-fermented dairy proteins like casein or whey. If the sugar comes from cane or beet, not wheat or barley, chametz concerns vanish. If the nitrogen sources are synthetic, not animal-based, kashrut concerns vanish. If the vitamins are manufactured without chametz carriers or non-kosher oils, pesach and year-round certification becomes streamlined. And most companies already prefer these modern sources because they improve the consistency of yields, not because of halakhic pressure. This natural alignment between industrial science and halakhic needs is one of the most positive developments in contemporary food technology. The third category consists of processing aids and enzymes. These tools represent the catalysts that break bonds, assemble proteins, stabilize reactions, or clarify solutions. Historically, many enzymes were animal-derived, rennet from calf stomachs, amylases from barley malt, proteases from microbial cultures grown on grain mash. Today, the vast majority of industrial enzymes come from fully microbial origins, and their growth environments can be certified kosher without difficulty. Halacha treats enzymes much like it treats the microbial strains themselves. Their status follows the ingredients used to produce them. A microbial enzyme grown on kosher media is kosher. A synthetic enzyme created without biological carriers is kosher. An enzyme produced on animal-based or chametz-based substrates may raise concerns that must be evaluated case by case. But here again, technology has given halacha a gift. The industry has moved toward medical-grade, allergen-controlled enzyme production. The feedstocks tend to be clean, documented, and increasingly free from animal derivatives. This shift allows kashrut agencies to evaluate enzymes with a clarity that would have been impossible a century ago. Finally, we come to downstream processing aids, filters, resins, membranes, stabilizers, clarifiers, and anti-foam agents. These may not appear on labels, but halakhically they matter. Some filtration membranes historically used gelatin binders. Some chromatography resins used glycerin derived from animal fat. Some emulsifiers contained lipids of questionable origin. Today, most of these materials are fully synthetic or produced with vegan-certified standards. Kosher certifiers now operate in an environment where manufacturers routinely provide origin data, batch records, and validation reports. It becomes far easier for halacha to rule that a membrane or resin is not only technically acceptable, but that it contributes no flavor, no substance, and no halakhic identity to the final product. This gives the end result a clean parve classification, even when the product behaves like dairy or meat. So how do all these helpers, microbial strains, media, enzymes, processing aids, affect the kosher classification of the final food? The halakhic answer is consistent. The product's identity flows from its inputs and its process, not from its appearance or molecular similarity to animal-derived foods. If the growth media is kosher, the strain is kosher, the enzymes are kosher, and the processing aids are kosher, then the final protein is kosher. If they are also free of dairy derivatives, then the final protein is parve, even when it melts, stretches, browns, or foams exactly like dairy. This is why precision fermentation holds so much promise for kosher food. The system is closed, the inputs are traceable, the data is rigorous, and the opportunity for halakhic clarity is extraordinarily high. Kashrut agencies do not struggle with ambiguity here the way they might with complex meat supply chains or animal co-products. Instead, they encounter a world where every molecule has a history, every step has a record, and every ingredient has documentation. That transparency transforms what could have been a halakhic challenge into a halakhic advantage. It allows certifiers to say, with confidence, that these foods not only meet kosher standards but do so through processes that reflect the highest degrees of purity, control, and intentionality. In this sense, enzymes and microbial helpers are not obstacles, they are partners. They enable foods that were once halakhically complicated to become simpler, more widely accessible, and more ethically aligned with modern Jewish values. The helpers may be microscopic, but their impact on the future of kosher food is enormous and overwhelmingly positive.